Today we are going to talk about East India Company and British rule. How British expanded their territory by fighting and winning important battles, and how they expanded their control throughout the Indian subcontinent. So hi guys, this is Prateek and you are watching Eclectic. It was the Mughal Emperor Jahangir who allowed East India Company to establish their first factory at Surat in 1612. And from there, East India started operating as business entity in India. They used to present expensive gifts for Indian kings. British also provided financial support to Indian kings in some cases for gaining the favors of Indian kings. By following this cunning strategy, East India Company gained the favor of the king of Vijayanagara Empire, an empire that ruled over the South India. East India Company started their second factory in 1640 in Madras with the help and permission of Vijayanagara Empire. Similarly, after 1660, they started one company at Mumbai coast and another one at Calcutta. So look at their strategy closely. They were trying to dominate these coastal areas. Because if you want to invade a country, you have to get through their coastal barriers first. Along with East India Company, there were also some other foreign powers like Dutch, Portuguese and French operating in those coastal areas. And now the big question comes to everyone's mind, who gave these foreigners permission to have their own army? Unfortunately, the answer is our own Indian rulers, mostly the Mughals of India. Some of the last sultans of Mughal Empire were weak and did not do any good for India. They just enjoyed their position of sultan and were happy with the expensive gifts presented to them by these foreigners. In the beginning, East India Company only had permission to have security guards to protect their trade. But in the middle of 18th century, East India Company and other foreign powers convinced Indian kings that their business and trade needs to be protected. And for that they need to maintain a fully equipped army which comprises of artillery, cavalry and infantry regiments. Then East India Company started the vicious game of power and dominance. They deployed their troops at Bengal, Madras and Bombay. By 1844, combined strength of East India Company armies was about 2.5 lakhs. And ironically, in British Army, more than 90% soldiers were native Indians and only handful of them were European. Now let's see the battles one by one, which shaped Indian history. 1612, Battle of Swali. British East India fought a battle with Portuguese army and came out as the winner. The foreign powers also had battles with each other because everyone wanted to rule over India. On the other hand, Indian rulers showed no unity against these foreign powers and they kept fighting with each other. The attacks of Marathas and Sikh Empire weakened the Mughals. In 1634 and 1635, the battles were fought at the Amritsar and Kartarpur, in which Sikh Empire defeated Mughal Empire. When Mughals were trying to recover from their losses done by Sikh Empire, Maratha Empire launched attack on them. During the period of 1665 to 1670, Marathas and Mughals fought many battles. Among them, Battle of Surat fought in 1665 was the key battle in which Maratha Empire sacked Surat city. These leading Indian empires and dynasties were fighting with each other tirelessly, which resulted in losing lots of manpower and money. Historians say that Mughal Sultan Aurangzeb spent most of his life fighting war with Maratha and Sikh rebellion. British East India Company sometimes used to extend their support to some of the Indian rulers in these battles. British wanted these emperors to fight with each other so that they can get some advantage out of it. They started interfering in Indian politics in the name of help. After 1750, East India Company became aggressive. They started to fight battles against Indian rulers. Battle of Plassey against Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowla. And in 1764, Battle of Buxar against combined armies of Bengali Nawabs and Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. British won both of these battles. In 1757, Battle of Plassey. In the Battle of Plassey, Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowla was all set to attack British army, but his own companion Mir Jafar betrayed him. Mir Jafar told Siraj-ud-Dowla to retreat for the day. Siraj-ud-Dowla made a huge mistake by listening to him. He told his troops to retreat. Following Nawab's command, troops were returning to their camps. And all of a sudden, Robert Clive attacked Siraj-ud-Dowla's army. Robert Clive was commander-in-chief of British army. Surprised by the sudden attack, Nawab's army could not figure out any way to fight British. They lost their discipline and fled away in that confusing situation. Siraj-ud-Dowla escaped somehow, but again with the help of Mir Jafar, British captured him and later executed him. Mir Jafar did all this to become Nawab of Bengal. We can clearly notice the divide and rule strategy of British East India Company here. Then the Battle of Buxar. In 1764, they defeated the combined forces of Bengali Nawabs and Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. And by winning these battles, they won the rights of collecting taxes from Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. After celebrating their victory, they were eyeing towards the regions around Mumbai, Madras for expanding their dominion. And for the purpose, they started war against Mysore Kingdom. They fought 4 battles with Mysore Kingdom. They are known as Anglo-Mysore Wars. In First Anglo-Mysore War, Mysore Kingdom successfully defeated British under the command of Hyder Ali. Hyder Ali was almost about to capture Madras and challenge British command over Madras. Hyder Ali was the father of the great king Tipu Sultan. In the Second Anglo-Mysore War, Tipu Sultan fought the battle alongside his father Hyder Ali. Hyder Ali lost his life during the Second Anglo-Mysore War. However, Tipu Sultan continued the war even after the death of his father Hyder Ali. Finally, Second War ended with the British-Indian Treaty. This was the last treaty that gave any Indian empire equal benefits and rights. Third war between Mysore and British started because Tipu Sultan invaded areas around Travancore. British allies were ruling over Travancore. And because of that, British saw it as a threat and they declared war against Mysore. British brought war to Mysore Kingdom's doorsteps. The war ended after the siege of Seringamapatnam. Tipu had to sign a treaty and was forced to surrender half of his kingdom. In Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Tipu was seeking help from France. Napoleon personally agreed to help Tipu Sultan against British. Napoleon wrote a letter to Tipu Sultan in which he said, "You have already been informed of my arrival on the borders of the Red Sea, with an innumerable and invincible army, full of the desire of releasing and relieving you from the iron yoke of England." But British wouldn't let this happen. They wanted to break this coalition and they did it successfully. Tipu couldn't get any help from France, and when British attacked Seringamapatnam again, Tipu Sultan was shot dead by British officers. This defeat of Mysore resulted in consolidation of British power in southern India. Now the British were aiming to take down Maratha Empire because Maratha Empire was the last ruling empire which could challenge British power in India. Marathas fought 3 battles with British East India Company. First, Second and Third Anglo-Maratha War. In First Anglo-Maratha War, Marathas fought bravely. This war ended by signing Salbai Treaty. According to this treaty, British gained control over Maharashtra's Salsette Island and Gujarat's Bharuch district. However, British wanted to gain absolute power in India. And for that very reason, defeating Marathas was important, so British declared Second War against Marathas. In the Second War, Marathas lost control over the parts of Odisha, Rajasthan and Gujarat. Many Maratha soldiers died during this battle, and this resulted in weakening of Maratha Empire. Third Anglo-Maratha War. It was final and decisive conflict between Maratha Empire and British East India Company. During the Third Anglo-Maratha War, lack of unity was seen among the commanders of Maratha Empire. British took advantage of this lack of unity and defeated Maratha Empire in battle. This was the end of last ruling Indian kingdom. After this war, no king had that amount of military power which could challenge British East India Company. However, in 1858, some Indian rulers and leaders came together and rebelled against British East India Company. This is known as Indian Rebellion of 1858 or Sepoy Mutiny. But British successfully crushed this rebellion. After the rebellion of 1858, British Crown took control over India and Queen Victoria became the Empress of India. So this is how British slowly won over India by using their cunning and clever military strategies. Now, 5 lesser known facts about things British Empire did to India in terms of business and education. British Empire was not interested in providing education to Indians. Literacy rate of India was below 20% during the British rule in India. British introduced railway in India, but they introduced railway for their own benefit to drain India out of its resources. British also destroyed textile industry of India. Before British rule, India was the largest exporter of textiles. This is how Indian Member of Parliament and world diplomat Mr. Shashi Tharoor explained how British rule destroyed India. 4 facts. Irrigation technique were also introduced by British in India after 1857. British East India Company started postal services in India. In 1937, post offices were established in principal towns of India, and postmasters were appointed by the government controlled by East India Company. In 1856, British introduced the Hindu Widows Remarriage Act, which would allow Hindu widow to remarry after the demise of their husbands. Social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy supported East India Company for implementing this act in Indian community. Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar even offered money to men who would take widows as their brides. But these men often deserted their new wives after collecting the offered money. So that was it for today, guys. If you are interested to learn more about British India, check this book out. An Era of Darkness, written by Shashi Tharoor, with including all the important evidences. He has mentioned all the important evidences to support these facts. In next episode of Indian Battles, we are going to see the participation of India in World War I and World War II. How England dragged India in these world wars. In addition, how exactly Indian independence movement took advantage of world wars to fight against British rule. Thank you all for watching. See you soon.